Some summer nights seem calm, but they hide horrors that cannot be named. A flickering light across the lake, a distress signal in Morse code, and a seemingly abandoned house that turns out to be a deadly trap. Tonight you'll follow Kevin and James, two young men who thought they were on an adventure, only to stumble into something far darker. Story 1. The Woman on the Snowy Lake. After a long, exhausting divorce, I needed somewhere to wipe my mind clean. No job, no friends, just me and silence. My girlfriend at the time, Christina, suggested a remote place, a cabin by a lake in northern New York surrounded by pine forests and snow. We booked it right away. When we arrived, everything was blanketed in white. The air was cold enough to cut skin. On the porch sat a small box with no sender, just a handwritten scrawled note. Enjoy your stay. Make sure to stay warm. Inside was a box of matches. Strange, but not alarming. Christina laughed, joking. Maybe folks around here are just a little eccentric. The first 2 days were peaceful. We hiked through the woods, sipped hot cocoa by the fire, and enjoyed the rare silence. The bedroom was on the second floor with a huge window overlooking the frozen lake, breathtakingly beautiful. But on the third night, I jolted awake to a strange sound layered beneath the wind. It was a mechanical humming. Artificial. I quietly stepped to the window and saw a snowmobile slowly crossing the lake. Someone was riding it. When they reached the middle, they stopped and began waving directly at our house. I shook Christina awake and told her to call the police if anything weird happened. I dressed warmly and went outside. The wind sliced through me like razors. As I got closer, I saw it was a woman, frantic, nearly screaming. "Is anyone there? Please, my son is lost in the storm." Without thinking, I rushed to her. But then, she locked eyes with me and asked in an eerily calm voice, "Do you have any matches?" I froze. A chill ran down my spine. Before I could respond, she smiled a distorted, hollow smile and pulled out a pistol, phone and wallet. Her voice was now cold, sharp. I complied. She hopped back on the snowmobile and vanished into the blizzard as if she had never existed. I ran back to the cabin, shouting for Christina to call the police. When they arrived, they found nothing. Every trace had been erased by the snow. No tracks, no woman, no sign of anyone ever being on the lake. Worse, the cabin owner completely denied sending any gift box. Airbnb refunded us fully, but there was no explanation. Weeks later, I tried tracing my phone's signal. It had been turned off somewhere far from the lake. And I began to wonder, how did that woman know we'd be at the cabin? How did she know about the matches? How did she reach the middle of a frozen lake at night without anyone seeing? I have no answers. Only a sinking feeling that we weren't a random target. And I'm still not sure if that night is truly over. Story 2. The Uninvited Guest in the Attic. When I was a kid, the wooden lake house in Northern California was our escape from the world. It had been in the family for generations, the place where my sister and I built sleeping bag forts in the attic, where sunsets lit the tiny attic window, and where peaceful childhood memories lived. Memories I no longer want to revisit. After my grandparents passed away, my parents filled the attic with old furniture, recliners, clocks, music boxes, a museum of family memories. That attic had once been paradise, but over time it became a dusty vault, silently guarding secrets no one had touched in years. A few years later, with school and work keeping us busy, my family could no longer visit the lake house regularly. My dad, in a decision I still don't understand, rented the house out cheaply to an old war veteran, a small, scruffy man with a twisted voice and unsettling eyes. The way he stared at kids playing by the lake gave everyone chills, except my dad. Things became truly alarming when the landscaping crew, the people maintaining the property, told my mom they often saw him sitting silently staring at children playing on the lawn. There were disturbing hints of strange behavior, incidents I'd rather not repeat. When his lease ended, my mom insisted he leave immediately. My dad tried to soften the message to avoid upsetting the veteran, but in the end, he left without argument. And no one expected that it wouldn't be the last time we saw him. A year later, after my sister's college graduation, the family returned to the lake house for a vacation. First time in years. We brought our new dog Bear, a big, strong black lab, fiercely loyal. But right before heading out to dinner on the first night, I noticed Bear acting strange. Pacing, ears perked, like he heard something we couldn't. When we returned, Bear was lying motionless at the foot of the stairs. Blood was seeping beneath him. My mom screamed and called the police. My dad silently grabbed a knife and stepped inside. I followed, heart racing. The house was eerily quiet until my dad stopped pointing upward. The attic door slightly opened. A beam of flashlight spilled from the gap. I froze. My dad climbed up without hesitation. I couldn't follow. Minutes later, he came back down, his face pale. He whispered, "It's him. The old man from years ago." He never left. He'd been living in the attic for an entire year using the old key my dad said he had replaced. Police arrived and escorted him out. He looked frail, but his eyes still lurked. We found a few items, a filthy mattress, food wrappers, and a bloodied knife. Bear survived, but our memories didn't. No one in my family has returned since. I can't forget that feeling, realizing someone had been living above you. Quietly. Watching. Waiting. Story 3. The SOS light across the lake. My name is Kevin. Last summer I was 20 and I think I lived through one of the most haunting nights of my life. My friend James came from a wealthy family. His dad, a lawyer, owned a massive lakefront estate, remote, surrounded by vacation homes that were mostly dark, silent, and empty year-round. James had access to the house any time, and we often threw parties there. But that night, it was just the two of us, a night I wish I could forget. We sat on the dock drinking beer and chatting. I'd just broken up with my girlfriend after 3 years, so James invited me out to reset. While talking, I noticed a flickering light across the lake. At first, I thought it was sunlight reflecting, but then it kept blinking. In a repeated pattern. 3 short flashes. 3 long. 3 short. James frowned. "You know Morse code." I laughed. "When did you learn that?" He stared at me serious. "That's SOS." I froze. We stood up staring at the house across the lake, a dim light in a second-story window. The signal continued for another minute, then went dark. James said we should call the cops, but we'd been drinking. I also had a suspended license for traffic violations, so police weren't a smart choice. Eventually, after some hesitation, we made a dumb decision to kayak across and check it out. I know, stupid. But we'd explored abandoned buildings before it felt like another thrill. The sun was setting, the water cold and dark. As we approached, I noticed the dock on the other side had partially collapsed. We dragged the kayak onto the grass and looked up. The light in the window was gone. We didn't use the front door. We crept around and found an unlocked window. Inside, the house was empty. No furniture, no sign of habitation. We crept upstairs trying to find the room with the window. Finally, I pushed open a door, and there was only an old projector set by the window pointed straight across the lake. No person, no chair, nothing but a projector still warm to the touch. James and I both felt it. A trap. Then I heard it. Click. Another door, maybe a closet, creaked open. Footsteps thundered behind us. James screamed and bolted. I turned and ran after him. We sprinted down the stairs through the empty house and jumped out the same window. As we ran, James shouted, "Where's the kayak?" I looked up. My blood went cold. Gone. Then from the side of the house, a figure rushed toward us. Huge. Moving too fast for any normal person. I pulled out the pocket knife James had given me earlier, trembling. But James didn't hesitate. He dove into the lake. I followed. Freezing. Panic. We swam in sheer terror. Behind us, the dark figure stood at the edge of the water, silently watching. We never looked back. By the time we reached James's dock, I couldn't feel my limbs. Police arrived nearly an hour later. They searched the house and returned with a verdict: abandoned. No one living there, no projector, no trace. No one believed our story. But I know what I saw. That light wasn't random. Someone lured us in. They were lucky to escape that house. But no one knows who set the trap or how many others had been lured into that twisted performance before the night ended. Sometimes when you see a flickering light from far away, don't go toward it, because not everyone signaling for help truly wants to be saved.